Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 players that you need to stop drafting in 2023 fantasy football drafts. But before we can do a deep dive Michael Phelps style into these 5 players, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get on into 5 players that you need to stop drafting in 2023 fantasy football. We begin at number 1 with DK Metcalf, wide receiver of the Seattle Seahawks, current underdog ADP, wide receiver 15 at pick 28.6. Now, I want it to be very clear that my opinion on DK Metcalf is all about the situation that he is in, and that is why I don't want to draft him. DK Metcalf is built like a Greek god. He is a humongous man. He has all the size, the length, the girth, the tonnage. The problem with DK Metcalf is the situation. I am incredibly nervous to draft a wide receiver as a top 15 guy that is in a scenario where there are 3 great wide receivers. Last year with Tyler Lockett, Metcalf had a pretty decent season, right? Wide receiver 18.5 PPR and 27.5 PPR points per game. But now they bring in Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. It's not like they just added some schlub off the street, some former USFL wide receiver, right? They drafted someone who most considered the best wide receiver in this year's draft class in Jackson Smith-Njigba. So again, it is all about the situation here. I still think Metcalf is a great player. If something was to happen to Lockett or to JSN, knock on wood, then Metcalf could potentially finish as a top 12 wide receiver, and I will look foolish. But entering the season, if every single player is healthy on the Seattle Seahawks offense, meaning that Metcalf is healthy, Lockett is healthy, Jackson Smith-Njigba is healthy, Walker's healthy, Zach Charbonnet is healthy, there's a lot of competition for targets in this offense. 17 games played in 2022 for Metcalf, 141 targets, 8.3 per game, number 11, 90 receptions, 5.3 per game, number 10, 1,048 receiving yards, 61.6 per game, 15th, and 6 total touchdowns, 20th. He had a very high drop rate last year, dropped 9 balls, second at wide receiver. Man was looking like Deontay fucking Johnson last season, though he's still a great wide receiver, right? I'll poke fun about the drops, but this man had a 46.3% route win rate, 17th, 251 total route wins, 8th. So again, Metcalf is this great player. He's built like an Adonis. He's humongous, and he has the speed of a NASCAR driver, right? The guy is incredibly fast. But at the end of the day, when you put a bow on this thing, you have to understand that Metcalf is in a situation where there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and I simply cannot draft a player as the wide receiver 15, right? When you draft him as wide receiver 15, you're assuming he's a top 12 wide receiver. Otherwise, you're not going to draft him. So you're assuming he is top 12. He has this top 5 upside, right? And I get it. If there was injuries, maybe that could happen. But in the current situation we are in right now, where the season plays out and Metcalf's healthy, Lockett's healthy, and JSN plays most of the season, DK Metcalf is going to be a certified fucking flop in 2023 fantasy football. I've made jokes in the past about how I think Geno Smith isn't as good as he was last season. I think Geno Smith's 2022 campaign was a little fugazi. But at the end of the day, there's so many weapons there. Geno Smith will probably be just fine. I seemingly can't draft the wide receiver 27.5 PPR points per game last year, with now even more added target competition at wide receiver 15. It just does not add up. Moving now to the number 2 player that you should not be drafting in 2023 fantasy football drafts, we got another receiver, and that is Deebo Samuel, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, current underdog ADP, wide receiver 17 at pick 34. 0.4. Last year, he had a huge down season compared to 2021. Wide receiver 37.5 PPR and 25.5 PPR points per game, tied with Chris Olave. If you drafted Deebo where he was going in most fantasy football drafts last year, he was a big fat bust, and I think this man's going to go back-to-back Michael Jordan 96, 97, 2 years in a row as a certified bust. 13 games played in 2022, 95 targets, 7.3 per game, ranking 37th, 56 receptions, 5.3 per game, 47th, 632 receiving yards, 48.6 per game, 49th, 5 total touchdowns, 29th, and he had 42 carries for 232 yards. Now, I talked very briefly about how this man suffered huge regression from 2021 compared to 2022. In 2022, this man had 2 receiving touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns, which for the people at home is 5 total touchdowns. In 2021, he had 6 receiving touchdowns and 8 rushing touchdowns. Quick math, 14 total touchdowns. He scored almost triple the amount of touchdowns in 2021 as he did in 2022. Interesting, right? And if you look at his efficiency stats, the guy was not efficient in the slightest last year. 35.4% route win rate, 82nd. 1.57 target separation, 75th, and a 75.7% true catch rate, which divides total receptions by total catchable targets, 88th at wide receiver. Now, if you look at his career as a whole, ever since he entered the NFL, he hasn't been the best. So the question is, was 2022 the outlier? Is he that guy he was in 2021? Or does the large sample size of his career tell us that maybe 2021 was a fucking fever dream for this guy, and he's never going to be that good again, right? He's never going to score 14 touchdowns again, right? And then we end up drafting this guy as wide receiver 17, and he ends up as a big fat bust again. Now, the only thing that makes me worried about throwing the do not draft tag on guys like Metcalf and Samuel is they are on amazing teams. They are on great offenses, and I really think Metcalf's an amazing player. Deebo, I'm still kind of iffy on, but Deebo is still a great athlete. The problem is they have, when healthy, they have Deebo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and they also have Christian McCaffrey, the best pass-catching running back in the National Football League. And if Christian McCaffrey is able to stay healthy, Elijah Mitchell stays healthy all season, do you really think Deebo Samuel is going to rush for potentially 8 touchdowns like he did in 2022? If you do, you need to get checked into the crazy place where they put the, what is that called? Like the Houdini wrap around you. We can't walk around. You're getting the socks vacation where they trap you in the room, right? You're a crazy person if you believe that Deebo, if McCaffrey stays healthy, if Ayuk's there, if all these guys are there, if he scores 15 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns like he did in 2021, I think you are certifiably crazy. And also, we have no idea who the quarterback's going to be. I think in August, we're going to be sitting there when most people are doing their actual fantasy drafts, and we're still going to be clueless about it. We will have no idea if it's going to be Lance, if it's going to be Big Cock Brock Purdy, right? Maybe it's Sam Darnold, Nick. And we all know it's not going to be Sam Darnold. Don't be crazy. But at the end of the day, Deebo is in a confusing situation. There's a lot of weapons around him, and it seems to me, when you do a lot of research, it's not that 2022 was the outlier. It's that 2021, that great year, really was. Moving now to player number 3, we have Kadarius Toney, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. Underdog ADP wide receiver 38 at pick 72.5. Now, we've mentioned Underdog for the ADPs in this video. Underdog is the sponsor of today's video. If you're brand new to Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use the link in the video description or promo code Notorious to sign up. Underdog is the best place to play fantasy football. Best ball this summer. Best ball is the best part about fantasy football, the draft. You don't have to worry about waivers, in-season management, or trades because you do your 18-round draft, And that's it. Every single week, Underdog automatically sets your lineup for you, putting the highest scores into your lineup at the end of every single week. They have the biggest best ball tournament ever. $25 to enter, $3 million in first place, $15 million in total prizes. Now, if you're thinking, Nick, I'm new to Underdog, I'm new to best ball, I don't want to dip my feet in at a $25 entry point. That's fine with me, because they have the Chihuahua. $4 to enter, 25 max entries, $25,000 to first, $250,000 in total prizes. If you click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment or use promo code Notorious, you will get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So you deposit $100, you get an additional $100. If you want to deposit $50, an additional $50, $25, an additional $25. Make sure you guys check it out. Link in the video description. I'm going to be doing drafts live on there in the future, so make sure you guys do check that out. Back on into things though, Kadarius Toney. I'm just going to be as blatant as possible. I don't understand what people are thinking when they select Kadarius Toney. Now, I get it somewhat in best ball, right? You're drafting Kadarius Toney because you're praying to the fantasy football gods above that this man is going to have 6-7 games this year where he is the absolute nuts, where the Kansas City Chiefs hang their balls on the forehead of the defense. Pat Mahomes just two pumps the defense, and Kadarius Toney somehow scores 2 touchdowns, or a touchdown that game, gets like 80 yards, right, and he has a great game. I can get the thought process in that. But in a regular redraft league, we have to set your lineup every single week. How in the world are you going to know when to play Kadarius Toney? How are you going to know? This man is as soft as baby shit. He gets hurt all the time. Now, I'm not someone that is a doctor. I've said this a bunch of times. I'm as much of a doctor as the guys you see on the hub, right? I'm just like Johnny Sins the doctor, right? I'm not a real doctor. But what I do know is that I've seen it in the past. He keeps getting hurt. He can't stay healthy. But Nick, he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Sure. He was the 5th best wide receiver in that game in the Super Bowl, and he scored a touchdown. Played 9 games in 2022 with 5 starts, 20 targets, 2.2 per game, 130th, 16 receptions, 1.8 per game, 115th, 171 receiving yards, 19.9 per game, 124th, 3 total touchdowns, 50th at wide receiver. This man didn't play in enough games to even qualify for efficiency stats. Now, another argument people will make. Nick, I know he was the wide receiver 107 in half PPR last year. Nick, I know he was wide receiver 85 in points per game, tied with Chase Claypool. But Nick, the Chiefs don't have any other wide receivers. They've got Sky with 2 Ys more. They got MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They got Rashee Rice. They got Richie James. I'm Rick James, bitch. They got Justin Ross. Nick, this isn't real competition. Well, guess what? Everything I've read out of the camps early on is, ooh, Justin Ross looks good. Ooh, this other guy, Sky Moore, he's flashing. There are no news reports about Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is a certified bum. He's a bum. He hasn't looked good in the NFL once, and you want to draft this motherfucker as the wide receiver 38? Are you serious? Are you serious? And again, in best ball, I kind of get it. I've even drafted him in one of my many drafts, right? I say, hey, he's playing against the Bengals in week 17. Maybe that's the, in the finals for these championships, these tournaments. We're going to get Kadarius Toney versus the Bengals, a shootout like you've never seen before. Just like one of those old battles when the U.S. was fighting up against Britain to claim the United States, and they're just standing there firing at each other, right? There's no trench warfare, just bang, reload, bang, like that, and everyone's just dying, right? Like in The Patriot, the film, okay? Sure, I can talk myself into that, but let's be honest with you. In your real fantasy football league, in your redraft league, when are you ever going to figure out when to start Kadarius Toney? The answer is never. The answer is never. Nevermore, as that poet said, whose name is Edgar Allan Poe. Pulled that one from deep in the brain. Moving now to player number 4, George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers, currently coming off the board on Underdog, wide receiver 39 at pick 74.7. He goes within a couple of picks of his teammate Diontae Johnson. Now, spoiler alert, if you've watched a lot of my videos, you would know that I love Diontae Johnson, and that's part of the reason why I'm scared of George Pickens. Wide receiver 36.5 PPR last year, playing in all 17 games with 12 starts. Wide receiver 49.5 PPR points per game. 85 targets, 5 per game, 48th, 52 receptions, 3.1 per game, 49th, 801 receiving yards, 47.1 per game, 35th, 5 total touchdowns, 29th. In terms of efficiency stats, 75.4% true catch rate, 89th. 1.135 target separation, 94th. 0.32 fantasy points per route run, 63rd. 33.3% route win rate, 91st. None of those stats any good. I'll give it to him. 57.1% contested catch rate, 13th. The guy's electric, right? In the contested catch. He made that catch last year where he caught the ball with one arm. He was doing gymnastics out there. Oh my God, that catch was better than Odell's, people were saying on Twitter. Okay. But at the end of the day, Pickens can make some good catches, right? 29.2% dominator rating, 16th. Cool. Let's call a spade a spade. I think the Steelers' offense is going to be better than what we saw in 2022. They still have an absolute dumb fuck being the offensive coordinator. Kenny Pickett's pretty meh. I think he looks better, though. The offensive line was atrocious, so the offensive line should realistically get better, right? They were just getting ran through. It was bad, okay? Pickens looked just okay in his rookie year. And I think he's going to look like that again. He's going to be a guy that's decent. But if Deontay Johnson's able to stay healthy, I just don't see how Deontay Johnson, being this humongous target monster in the offense, who scored 0 touchdowns last year. What happens when he scores 7 touchdowns, right? What happens when he gets all those targets and he becomes like a top 24, top 18 receiver, right? What's going to happen to Pickens? Because again, while I think Kenny Pickett's going to get better, it's not like this is the 1B wide receiver and Deontay Johnson's 1A. In my opinion, Deontay Johnson 1, George Pickens number 2. It's not like Waddle and Tyreek. It's not like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, right? It's just not like that to me. I think Pickens is a good player. I think he's going to make spectacular catches next year. I think he's going to be incredibly fun to watch. But I think in terms of scoring fantasy points, you want guys that get more targets than he did. You want guys probably with a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. And you don't want to be drafting a wide receiver at pick 74.7 as wide receiver 39, who I'm not even sure is going to finish as a top 32 wide receiver, if I'm being honest with you. I like the player. Again, he just isn't going to see enough targets, in my opinion, to where he is worth this pick. I just don't see it. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong on any of these guys, right? It's kind of crazy. Oh, Nick, you're going after Metcalf and Deebo. It's not as crazy to go after Kadarius, Toney, or George Pickens, though. Moving now to player numero 5. If you have ended up enjoying this far, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You wouldn't have made it this far if you didn't enjoy, let's be honest. Now, moving to player number 5. We got a running back, right? Not just all receivers. James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. Underdog ADP running back 30 at pick 97. Now, I wanted to talk about just do not draft players as guys that go inside the top 100 picks. Because if I'm being honest with you, if I don't like a player at pick 130, I'm not going to be like, you know what, you can't draft him. Because it's pick 130. You can take your shot deep from 3, Stephen Curry style, most of the time at pick 130, right? Unless the player is just that bad where I'd be like, that's a little crazy, right? So that's why I pick guys inside the top 100. Pick 45.5 PPR, pick 57.5 PPR points per game. I will note that Underdog, the running backs go much deeper in drafts on Underdog, and the receivers go earlier. So James Cook, while he's pick 97 on Underdog, he might be going on pick 80 maybe of your draft come late August, early September. So again, running back 45.5 PPR, 57.5 PPR points per game. Played in 16 games last year with 0 starts. Nicky was a rookie. I get it. But let's be honest with you. I liked Devin Singletary last year because I thought he would be able to fend off James Cook. That is not good at all for James Cook. James Cook couldn't pass up Devin Singletary as the RB1. Couldn't pass up Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary isn't good. He's not. 91 carries, 5.4 per game, 48th. 525 rushing yards, I apologize, 30.9 per game, 38th. 33 targets, 1.9 per game, 38th. 21 receptions, 1.2 per game, 42nd. 180 receiving yards, 10.6 per game, 37th. 3 total touchdowns. Now I'll give it to you. He was efficient. 5.32 yards per carry, 2nd. 6.3 yards per touch, 3rd. But I will note, most of the time he was in the game script was really positive, according to Player Profiler, plus 3.81 game script, 3rd. So he was in when you're going to get the best touches. And he did well with it. So again, I'm not trying to say that I think James Cook stinks. I just don't like the situation, right? They bring in Damian Harris. We've seen Damian Harris be good in New England. Now, some people be like, oh, he's getting older. Well, it's not like Damian Harris is 37 years old, right? He's not. They also bring in Latavius Murray. We saw Latavius Murray last year, right? It's not like Latavius Murray's taken over for James Cook, but you get what I mean. There's a lot of cooks in this backfield. There's a lot of guys. And I get why some people will fall for James Cook because, again, the efficiency stats are great. But do we think James Cook is going to be seeing 180 carries next year? Do we think he's going to get 60 targets? If he does, if you think he is going to surpass Damian Harris, if you think he is going to step up in a big way, he's going to be used on the goal line. And if he's not used on the goal line, he's going to run in like 8 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, then go right ahead and draft him as running back 30 because that makes sense, right? A running back 30, if you think you're going to get a guy that's going to see a drastic jump in carries and in targets in his sophomore season, go right ahead. This is a backfield that is also in danger of potentially adding another running back, potentially Dalvin Cook. We've heard some steam about James Cook's brother. James Cook isn't Dalvin Cook. He's just not. He's not a guy, in my opinion, that's going to get 180 carries. He's not a guy that's going to see 12-plus carries a game. He's just not. He's just not. Sure, he has the target upside. Sure, he's going to have probably 2-3 big games, I would think. But at running back 30, I'm drafting A.J. Dillon. Drafting Zach Charbonnet. Drafting guys that I think could, like, if something happens to Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon's an insta-league winner. If something happens to Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet's an insta-league winner. Zach Charbonnet could take over for Kenneth Walker. Right? Do we really see James Cook taking over for Damian Harris? Now, maybe people like James Cook because they say, hey, if something happens to Damian Harris, he could be a league winner. And I won't say that's crazy. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think if Harris is able to stay healthy all season, James Cook ends up being a swing and a miss. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that like button as well. I would appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out Underdog Fantasy. Again, the link in the video description. I love you guys all so much. We changed the background up. It's green this time. Normally we rock with purple or blue. Just experimenting some different things. Might be a different color next week. I doubt anyone even noticed until I said something here. I love you guys all so much from the deep down bottom of my heart. I love making these videos. I love reading the comments. So if you say, Nick, you're a dumb bastard, DK Metcalf is a lock to be wide receiver top 10, go right ahead and say it in the comments. I don't need you to agree with everything I say. That's okay. I like when you guys have different opinions than me because it makes for fun times talking in the comments, and maybe you can change my mind on these players. So I love you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.